Wow. We had a false start. We apologize. I just realized that I had something set up wrong that I need to get corrected. And we're actually going to have a guest today, Bishop, and he's going to be live from, wait, are you ready for this? From London, where it's like 11 o'clock at night. No, I'm not in London. Bishop is in London. And we're going to talk about a subject matter that has been going on forever. And it seems like it's just gotten like kind of reached a pinnacle right now. And that has been the attacks against the Asian community. And it's happening in San Francisco. It's happening in New York. It's happening all over the place. And Bishop has a podcast out, and he addressed this. And it was it caught my attention that I wanted to bring him on. So allow me to bring on, if you like, Bishop. Hello, sir. How are you?
What's up, man? Thank you for having me on. Happy to be here. Appreciate you, sharing your platform with me. And, I also, want to give condolences because I know your sister passed away, and I know these are not easy times. And so, my heart is with you in that regard, man. Because I know.
Well, thank you. That kind of helps me. This helped me distract a little bit from my mindset of what's been going on. And I know you're in London, and it's like almost midnight, and you decided,
midnight. Huh? Yeah, it's midnight right now.
And you decided you wanted to stay up late just so you can be on this podcast.
I'm gonna party with my people on the West. You know what I'm saying? So let's do it.
Well, I'm glad because I didn't realize it, but you were actually a Bay Area native, man.
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? Born in.
Wait, let me try something. I think you were born. Wait, let me think. You were born at the Moffitt Hospital, weren't you?
Look at man. Are you like a medium of some sort? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
It's just that you told me that before we went on air. So
yeah. You did have the cliff notes. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, you know me. I have to try to fake it till you get it right. So what is going on with all the people? I mean, we've been watching the news lately, and it has been bananas as it relates to the attacks on the Asian community.
It's unbelievable, and they're totally unjustified. First of all, across the board, I am blown away by just the fact that it exists at all. But the fact that it seems to be trending upward makes it more troubling, and it's also one of these things, and I hate to say it like this, but I'm just being real. I can't tell if it's getting worse or we're just seeing more of it. You know what I mean? Like when people used to say, well, police brutality isn't that big of a deal. It's not really that often. And then, as technology got better, you started seeing Rodney King, this person, that person, and you started seeing, hey, you know what? There is actually a problem here. So one of the things that I've been trying to keep mindful of is, where are these things happening? How often are they happening? What is happening legally, like inside the police departments and things like that? And then what's happening inside the Black community? Because this is where Black people in the Bay, in New York, and across the country have to go inside themselves and ask themselves, how have we been failing our children if this is a trend? With our babies, if our babies are doing this, where have we failed? And what steps can we take as quickly as possible to fix it? Because it's unacceptable, and it hijacks a narrative of so much positive intercultural communication that I don't want to see that jeopardized. I don't want to see that jeopardized.
So it's, and you don't know this, but my understanding is from talking to people who deal in law enforcement,
right,
that there has been a directive in California, and I don't know if it's worldwide or globally or nationwide, to not make arrests unless it's something completely like a danger to society. So people have figured out that if they're not making arrests, then maybe I can get away with more. And unfortunately, this attacks against the Asians, or they know for a fact that, hey, I can do this and there's no repercussion.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that is a problem. I think that so I did a podcast on this topic a week or two back, and I hit it straight on because I'm someone, because I'm born and raised in the Bay. my love for the Chinese community is immense. It is not small. You know what I'm saying? I practice martial arts. I teach martial arts. I have studied a lot of Taoism and Buddhism, and I have grown immensely because of the work of Bruce Lee and so many other people in the Asian community that I couldn't be quiet about it, just on a personal level. I know that there's a rich history of Black and Asian intercultural communication inside the Bay Area specifically, but I think coast to coast. And I don't want to see things get to a bad place, but I also know that there's going to need to be action from within the Black community that is from top to bottom, left to right, OGs, grandmas, dads, teachers, counselors. Everybody's got to have a role in speaking out against it, in condemning it, and having a hand in stopping it when they see it. We know that over the last 20 years, one of the worst things that's happened in American society is that we film more than we engage, right? So if somebody's fighting, rather than break it up,
yes,
film. If somebody, right? And so it's like, come on, man, like don't film that. Stop that, you know? And so we have to be proactive. And if you're afraid to stop it, because I'm not really suggesting so much like outright vigilante activity, right? Then film it as you call the police, as you contact someone who you know can stop it, because we can't let this keep happening. These are elderly people. These are people who have done nothing. These aren't even remotely provocable scenarios, right? And, you know, some of these people are dying. Some of these people, are having, serious brain damage and things like that. I think in the Black community, it is a time for reckoning within ourselves, but this is a double reckoning, because you have Black America, which needs to reconcile within itself, and then the Asian and the Black community need to reconcile with what white supremacy has done to both of their communities about how they understand themselves and each other. So this is a very layered, you know what I mean, and a very delicate situation. But we need to be diligent, we need to be consistent, and we need to be unending in our efforts, because we have to stop it. It's unacceptable.
So should maybe the Bay Area rappers who are out there who have a huge influence on the culture of Oakland, the Black community of Oakland, they rap about something, if they rap about Gucci shoes, you look out tomorrow and everybody's got Gucci shoes. If you rap about a brand new Lexus, 3 days from now, everybody got brand new Lexuses. Right. So why can't they rap about, hey, let's not attack people of Asian descent. Let's not attack anybody. Let's just live in harmony.
Right. Well, there's two parts to that. The first answer is an obvious yes. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
From my observation, the first one that I saw speaking on it, Mr. Fab, was the first person from the hip hop community that I saw speaking about it. He was very sincere about it. He's connected to a Chinese rapper from New York named China Mac, who ironically, China Mac had come out to the Bay, I think a year ago, to do a Black and Asian unity thing anyway. So, there's a lot of positive communication that's already been there. I was really proud of Fab stepping up, speaking out. He's been very consistent about it. You know what I mean? And there are other people inside the hip hop community on the Asian and the Black side who've been doing a lot of work to amplify, hashtags like, stop Asian hate, you know what I mean? Stop Asian hate crimes, et cetera, et cetera. Do we need a song? Yes. Should it be done quickly? Yes.
Yes.
I think it needs to either be a song where you have all Black rappers just shutting this whole Asian thing down, or it would need to be like a Black, like maybe Fab needs to make a song with China Mac. You see what I'm saying? So that it can be like regional, racial, intercultural, and things like that. It needs to happen. I think that hip hop, I've been covering hip hop since 1987.
Yes.
And I've been lucky enough to know everybody from Eazy-E to Tupac and a whole bunch of other people who I have a lot of love and admiration for. And I know that they know a lot of these different impacts between Black and Asian culture. So we need to be, and on the Asian side of the coin, many Asians have learned about Black people through hip hop, but we need to go deeper than the music. We need to go deeper than sports and say, oh, well, you know, I like Kobe Bryant or whatever. Like, okay, cool, you rapper, you dance. We have to connect on a deeper level to make sure that this violence is eradicated.
You know, you bring up a pretty good point, and some more subjects I want to bring up because we're about to take a little break in a few minutes. We're going to take about a minute break just so later down the line we can drop into commercials. But I want you to think about this thing here, because COVID-19, at one point, the Asian community was villainized as being the reason why we have COVID-19.
Right.
And that seemed to be the uptick in the attacks on the Asian community from different reasons. And I think kind of systematically our government, our national government at that time was like saying, you know, using anti-Asian rhetoric, which didn't help the issue. So we're going to take a break. And when I come back, let's talk about that for a minute and what our solutions are. All right.
All right.
So if you're just joining me, I'm here with Bishop, and he's a author / podcast host. And we're talking about this whole thing at the deal that he's live from London, by the way. And we're talking about the attacks on the Asian community. So holla across the pond. And so as I left, my question to you was, and my statement was that a lot of this has a lot to do with the fact that there was a lot of rhetoric, anti-Asian rhetoric from the past presidential administration. And that everything that comes out of there and any agency of that sort ripples down. And that's when we start to notice the uptick in the Asian attacks.
Right. Yeah, there's no question that, you know, Donald Trump specifically and a lot of the people who support him were at the cornerstone of a lot of that anti-Asian rhetoric. And, you know, unfortunately for those in the African-American community who haven't done their own homework on their own culture and their own experience, you know, especially those that live in the Bay, I think that it was easy, especially for the impressionable youth, possibly, right? Because I don't understand what's happening. I can't lie and say that I know why these kids are doing what they're doing. I don't get it. I don't know what it is. I did my first show on it 2 or 3 weeks back. Then I had Stick from Dead Prez. He's a rapper in a group called Dead Prez. Just to give you an example, you know, in hip hop, Dead Prez's logo comes from the I Ching. Like, that's their logo. It's from the I Ching. You can't get more Chinese than the I Ching. All right. That's the logo. He does kung fu. He's got an album called The Workout, and he's got a song called White Belt, which is, you know, deals with kung fu and, you know, mental and spiritual discipline and stuff like that. And one of the things that he talked about was that, now he's not from the Bay, he's from Atlanta and New York, and Florida. But what he was saying was, you know, he believes a portion of these crimes are not as much racially motivated as poverty crimes of opportunity. Right?
Okay.
I would believe that, and I agree with it to a degree, a small degree, right? But I would tend to believe it more if theft came with the action, right? If they pushed the guy down, took his cell phone and ran, so, you know, a wallet, or like, these aren't necessarily thefts.
Right.
They're random acts of violence.
Right.
And so I do believe that there is an issue where, you know, poverty is triggering crimes of opportunity, okay, for some of these young people. I do believe that that's a problem, but I don't believe that it's the only problem. I believe that we have an issue within the Black community where we don't know our own culture, and so we don't respect ourselves. And when you don't respect yourself, it's hard for you to respect somebody else. If they knew that, Bruce Lee, right, who spent a lot of time in Oakland, right?
Yes, he's from the Bay.
Was and was born in San Francisco, right?
Right.
If they knew that one of the reasons he got into trouble with his own community was because he taught blacks and whites martial arts. He said not to, right? If they knew that one of Malcolm X's most staunch allies, which is a Japanese woman from the Bay named Yuri Kochiyama, right? Like, that's not a joke. Like, look up Yuri Kochiyama, Malcolm X. You'll see all kinds of photos, all kinds of letters from him to her and vice versa. And she passed away some years ago, but she was an amazing human being. Now, if you understood that, the Black Panthers existed in Oakland, right? But that the Black Panthers had alliances with people of different races in the Mission District and in the Latino community, they were known as the Brown Berets. In the Chinese community, they were known as the Red Guard. Okay, and these were Asians, Latinos, and Chinese people completely, supporting each other in a consistent way, right? I spoke with Raka Irish Science from a rap group called Dilated Peoples, and he is Korean and Black, right? By birth, he's Korean and Black. Okay. And he was saying that one of the things that he found, so he's from Los Angeles, and when these attacks started spiking, there were some Black people, and again, it's a small number, some Black people who were like, well, what about what happened when that lady killed Latasha Harlins?
I saw that. Right?
You gotta be an adult in the 90s to even remember that name, right? And you can't equate these actions as some kind of karmic get back, or they have no relationship. They have no relationship. And so until we know our history within the Black community and we understand how to appreciate the Chinese community from a cultural and spiritual perspective, we're going to be at a loss. And so this is where, again, the mothers, the fathers, the aunties, the uncles, the grannies, all these dudes that call themselves OGs, all the ladies who say that the young kids listen to them, you've got to step up. You've got to say, hey, look, the elderly are always off limits, period. Okay. Second of all, if you see anybody attacking the Asian elderly, you need to get involved. You need to get on your cell phone. You need to take pictures. You need to do something to stop it, right? That's very proactive. And you need to let other people in the hood know we're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And so that has to be something that we do. And
it's crazy. I mean,
unless and until we do, we're gonna have a hard road, and we're losing good allies, because the other thing that Raka said, which really blew my mind, is he said, look at when the BLM thing happened, especially when the George Floyd thing was at its tipping point. I know people, who knows people from the Asian community who have racist grandparents, racist parents, maybe, who aren't that fond of Black people or whatever. And their children were like, look, we're stepping up. This is not okay. You know what I'm saying? And they had conversations with people who may have been prejudiced in their community. He's like, for that love, where is our reciprocity being given as Black people? Where are we saying, we appreciate this, and so we are stepping up and we will do A, B, and C. It can't just be when George Floyd is happening. It can't just be when the next George Floyd is happening, or the next Tamir Rice or Oscar Grant. We need to be consistent allies on all sides as often as possible.
So you spoke up in your podcast, and you were adamant about telling people that this isn't cool. You should not do this. And you're one of the very few people that I found that spoke up from the Black community on that, I mean, to a level of a platform where it could be disseminated to the public. What made you decide? I mean, outside of the fact you growing up here.
Yeah. Well, it's got several levels. I mean, again, one, I'm a martial arts teacher. I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've learned a lot, reading Taoism and Buddhism. I've learned a lot directly from people from the Chinese community. And And my experience specifically in places like Chinatown over the years has always been nothing but love and respect. I've never had a problem in Chinatown. I've never been walking in Chinatown and been followed in the store, but it'll happen at Macy's. You understand what I'm talking about? Or Saks Fifth Avenue. You understand what I'm talking about? So and I go there often for tea, for, buy some old statues, to buy some books. I just go there and I hang out. I've never had a problem. So to see the Asian elderly be attacked, it's just like cultural blasphemy. I know also, as a Black person who considers himself to be of the civilized community, in the Black community, because all of us ain't civilized in every community, that this is not who we've ever been. We've never been like this. I'm blown away by what I'm seeing from Black youth. And I know, because I do a lot of work in the juvenile halls, I know Black youth are suffering in the education system. I know Black youth are suffering in the juvenile halls. I know it's low money in a pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Everything's pretty much going wrong. Low opportunities, low education, broken families. And that is the perfect storm for these kinds of acts of like madness. It's insanity. And so I'm trying to speak out to make sure that, as someone who works with a lot of young people and connects with them, that they know that I stand with them. And I have a lot of Asian students. You know what I'm saying? How would I be a good teacher? How would I be a good mentor if, after all the Asian students that I've had, I would say nothing? I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't sleep at night if I didn't. You
have to speak out. And what saddened me is that there's a lot of people who are not, who have a voice, who have a platform. And it's disturbing to me. Now, there's a reporter in San Francisco, Dion Lim. I think that's her name.
I've seen her Instagram.
Yeah, she's been doing a lot of reports of attacks against the Asian community. And we talked on the phone the other day, and she told me that she has so much, she gets 3 or 4 a day. And she actually said to me, we really need you to come back to the Bay Area because I can't, there's too many of them. I had to take a mental break because there's so many attacks. So we're only seeing a tip of the iceberg for the amount of issues going on. And I see them on Twitter a lot. And some get the big news coverage, but but many don't. And they're happening in Oakland and San Francisco, and I believe San Jose.
Yeah. And it's so bizarre to me. Like, I wish I had an answer. I wish I understood it. I don't know where this is coming from. And the only thing I know is that the OGs and the elders have to step up. I follow an Instagram of an organization called Asians with Attitude, and I think they patrol Oakland and different communities in the South Bay, trying to make sure that people don't get hurt and stuff like that. And I appreciate what they're doing. I don't know anybody in that organization, so I'm just mentioning them because I appreciate what they do and what I've seen.
Got it.
But I'll tell you what I would like to see. And I don't think that I know I don't have the resources to do this, but I know somebody does. We need to see people and organizations from the Black community in Asian neighborhoods policing their own, right? Because I believe that we need to see Black people from street organizations who know and say, hey, you know what, bro, don't come here with that right now. Get out of here with that. We look, people, whether it's from the Nation of Islam, the local Muslim community, things like that, organizations that are known. I'm not talking about random people, right? But we need Black leaders to step up and show care to the Asian community, right? So that their congregations will have a handle and have a time and say, look, we care about making sure that the Asian elderly are okay. And we will make sure that we get our youth up out of here and hold them accountable, because I feel like our silence feels like compliance. Like our silence feels like we agree. And I know a lot of Black people who don't agree, but I also know a lot of Black people who are like, I have no idea what's going on. And if they don't engage these young people consistently, then they're not going to be able to talk to them, or they're not going to want to talk to them. And so the cycle will continue. But we need to do something to fix this. We need more Black leadership on the front lines, and we need more artists rappers, basketball players, athletes of all backgrounds, and entrepreneurs to come together and see what we can do. And I'm speaking to any Black entrepreneur, any Black athlete, any Black artist. Like, we need to be at the front lines of this because it's unacceptable. And I guarantee you what's going to happen. You don't even need to be some kind of prophet to know what's going to happen. One day, some Black youth are going to step up and they're going to get caught slipping, and it's going to be real ugly. And when that happens, a whole bunch of new Black people are going to be like, hey, look what they did to our kids. This isn't cool. And everybody's going to know karma. Everybody got to cash in their karma. Everybody.
Well, you know, what disturbs me most is the attacks themselves disturb me. But the fact that they're attacking helpless seniors and they're slamming them to the ground and they're causing, injuries that could cause death. Yes, you have your head down and shaking because it's like it's sad. It's like
it's cowardly. It is.
It's cowardly.
It's demonic to me. Like, I don't like to use words like that, but when you attack the elderly, your state of mind is not civilized. When you attack the elderly, like, don't say you have any kind of cultural, religious affiliation. Like, don't do it, because you're only going to do damage to whatever you claim, because there's no path of attacking the elderly people from any culture that's acceptable. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if these kids think that they're tough, but I guarantee you, any young person, go ask somebody, so when do we beat up the old people? Do we used to do that? And they're going to be like, what are you talking about? Nobody did that ever. It's not what we do. It's not what we've ever done. And so, again, inside the Black community, we have to have a mental, political, spiritual, and cultural day of reckoning within ourselves about what has gone wrong. White supremacy has absolutely played a role, but we have to take control. So I can say, yes, the schools are broken. They don't teach us well. I can say, the Black families are broken due to, a lot of different things, the prison industrial complex and things like that. Okay, but if it's gotten to the point where our children are attacking the elderly from another community, any elderly, but specifically targeting the Asian community, we need to grab hold of our children. We need to grab hold of our own hearts, and we need to realign these young people, because we know they were born for better than what they're doing.
All right, so on that note, and that's good, my producers tell me to take a break, so we'll take another minute. Just go ahead and have a cup of coffee or something. We'll be back in 1 minute.
All right.
So I'm back, and we have a guest live from London. His name they call him Bishop, and somebody asked if he played chess. We're going to ask him about that later, but we're going to go into deeper details about what we discussed a minute. We're talking about the attacks on the Asian community, and I think it's important that we discuss this. And so a question that I had is, and we ended the last break with this one. So tell me how white supremacy, in your opinion, is playing a huge role on what's going on now with Blacks attacking Asians.
Right. So yeah, that's a good thing to talk about. So first of all, when I talk about white supremacy, it's important for you to know that my background is in hip hop journalism. I'm one of the first Bay Area writers, to write for, East Coast publications like The Source and things like that, and Vibe, etc. And I've written several books about hip hop and intercultural communication, things like that. White supremacy and the Black struggle has always been something important to me, and so you must understand that white supremacy. When I say white supremacy, I don't mean standard hate crime stuff, right? Like, oh, you're an N-word, somebody gets, socked at the mall or whatever. That is not what I'm talking about. White supremacy, as defined by Neely Fuller Jr. People, you're going to have to look that up on your own because I'm not going to give the whole history lesson. Neely Fuller Jr., okay? He identified white supremacy as a system, I think in the late 70s, early 80s, and it is a system where white males decide what happens at the top, right? So this has a manifestation in labor, law, politics, war, sex, education, right? Art, entertainment, okay? And so, and the legal system, okay? And so when you see it in the legal system, it shows up as the prison industrial complex, right? When you see it locally in housing discrimination, it's gentrification, right? And the aims that are played there. So a big part of that is what? It's education, right? You have to understand that Black people in North America have always been taught improperly about the history of themselves, where they came from, and how they came to be in the state they are in. They weren't the only ones lied to, because white children were obviously also lied to, and it only reinforces a false sense of superiority, okay? And so when you have generations of Black people miseducated about the history and nature of themselves, what they've done, how they got here, and what their potential is, the ripple effect of that, on top of broken Black families, right? Which in large part came from, people don't know, welfare. There was a time in the 80s, the way welfare worked, if the woman signed up for welfare, there could not be a man in the house, right?
Okay.
But he was undereducated, so he couldn't get a job. So he's got to get out of the house in order for her to get a check to take care of the kids. That's a broken family. The ripple effect of that has harmed us almost as much as the chattel slavery breaking up of us, because it is a systematic breaking up of the Black family. You can't have a cultural breakdown happen for generation on top of generation and expect that the children who are the products of that are going to be socially, emotionally, or culturally okay. Now, when the system doesn't care, because we'll just throw them in juvenile hall and get paid, right? Prison industrial complex, etc. Nobody cares. But there are other breakdowns that you can't predict. And this, I believe, is a ripple effect of that unknown, variable in these consistent, unceasing attacks on the Black man, woman, and child of North America. It's just
so you believe that all of that, in a nutshell, is why the Blacks are attacking Asians right now? Because it's basically,
and remember, it's not all Blacks. It's a small number, but it's too many to be acceptable. One is unacceptable, but that it's a trend is completely unacceptable. But we have never been in charge of our own education. It's time we change that. We have never taken ourselves into accountability to teach ourselves what our history, our ancestors' deeds, and what their legacy was. So we need to be clear about the combined impact of those issues. And I'm not saying that it's an excuse, but I'm saying that it is a reason.
Well, we can't say, though, I mean, just my opinion, we tend to throw families on welfare under the bus and saying they're on welfare, so therefore they're disenfranchised, so therefore they're attacking people. Some of these things are just, because we can't say they're poor, because some of these attackers are pulling up in Mercedes Benzes, and they're pulling up in Audis, and they're pulling up in fancy cars.
Seen a lot. I agree with what you're saying to some degree, but most of the attacks that I've seen are by young Black males. Okay. That's talking about what I've seen. I'm not talking about statistics. I'm not clear on them yet. But I'm telling you,
No, no worries. I just want to clarify that.
I agree with you. I think that makes sense. You know, there are tons of people who come from impoverished situations and welfare situations who are absolutely upright, civilized, you know what I'm saying? No problem human beings, right? But what I'm talking about, these violent variables that are not normal, right? Because we're all agreeing that we've never seen anything like this before. We're all agreeing that, you know, there's a small group of people who are doing weirdness. You know what I'm saying? And so we need to hear it.
It's just racism against the Asian community from the Black community at
Yeah,
that point.
No question. No. I'm not saying that it's not racism. I'm trying to explain how it works. Any individual who doesn't love themselves will attack almost anybody. And that goes from someone who's strung out on drugs and someone who's not mentally right. And the impact of what's been going on has created a state where we are not mentally right as a people. So as a group of people, we're not mentally right. And one of the things that will happen is things like this. So we need to take more charge.
So now here's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And I touched on this earlier, and I'm going to go back to it now, is that this current district attorney in San Francisco is not prosecuting anybody almost. It seems like he's prosecuting the cops for doing their job, but he's not prosecuting the people for committing crimes. And that is causing a snowball effect because, you know, if you know that if you can go into a grocery store and steal a soda and you go out and tell your friends, I stole a soda and nothing happened, everybody's going to go steal a soda.
Right.
So if you're attacking Asians in San Francisco and you tell your friends, hey, I got paid. And we know they tend to believe that Asians.
Video when it's viral, this is me, you know what I mean? Killing somebody or whatever. Yeah. No, it's unacceptable. I believe, you know, I am not somebody who's going to defend the indefensible. And that's what this is, right? I'm not going to try and protect anybody involved in any of this. So if anybody has a hand in this and they get caught on video or they get identified, I want to see all of the law apply, right? I want to see all of the law apply.
I agree with you that
of the legal, social, whatever can be done to stomp them out. You know what I'm saying? And let it be known that is not okay, and it will never be okay, right? And it's never been okay. Like that needs to happen. There's no front that we shouldn't be fighting on. There's no front that we shouldn't be fighting on. And so if the DA isn't doing the work, then the DA needs to be taken to task for that. I understand, like they have these things. What do they call it? There's a term, and it's escaping my.
I think I know what you're talking about. Is it where they have this, like where they put you in this? They give you diversion, so to speak, and if you take the diversion, then you don't get charged for the crime.
Well, no. I'm saying like it's a thing that they did for young people, usually juveniles, to like not send them to juvenile hall, right? Like they would say, oh, well, rather than send you to juvenile hall, we'll do this. No, if it's a hate crime against the Asian elderly, you got to get like triple the time, or you know what I mean, or triple the fine. Something needs to happen. Like you need to know that you wrecked your own life, and nobody wants to deal with you. Nobody wants to hire you. No, like that pressure needs to be on any perpetrator who's had a hand in this. I can't be half baked about that, man.
No, I agree with you.
Legal action that can be taken, and because if this was white people beating up black elderly, I wouldn't want any different.
No, of course not.
Different, right? And so I need to see people held completely accountable, you know, legally, socially, every way, you know, I mean, really, I need to see it. I want to see it because I'm not sure that until black people, these black youth that are doing it, until they see their friends going away for a long time, having their futures ruined, you know what I mean? Then they'll be like, "Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna chill out." Yeah, you better chill out. It's not cool, you know.
Should we?
Said there's no rehab available for hate crimes. That's what I don't believe. I believe that sincere education cures those kinds of things. Like if I believe that, then why do we have Dr. King? If I believe that, right, then why do I believe in anybody who's ever brought peace, in Bruce Lee, right? Why do I believe in the works of the Dalai Lama? Why do I believe in the works of Nelson Mandela? Because there is rehab for hate crime. It's called education. It's called love.
Yes.
It's called compassion. It's called sincere truth with love. That's it. So yeah, I don't agree with that idea.
So I'm going to post this in the podcast. I'm going to post it on Twitter. I'm going to post it on LinkedIn. I'm going to post it on any place I can post it. If you can say anything to the people out there perpetrating these crimes against the Asian community, what would you say?
If there are any young people listening, if there are any parents who thinks that their kids, may have had a hand in this, or their grandchildren, or their neighbors, or if you're an OG, an elder, homie in the streets, man, I'm telling you right now that you need to understand that it is your job, it is our job to fix this. To the young people, I'll tell you like this: there's never been in the history of my time on this earth a time when Black people attack the elderly from any community. You are out of line, you are out of pocket. This is not from Black culture. This is not from Black American culture. This is not from Africa. This is not some type of karma for something that happened because maybe somebody said something to you in the 3rd grade. This has nothing to do with that.
Thank you. So
our ancestors know better and do better, and you must.
So real quickly, everybody, your name on there is Bishop, and someone asked, what does Bishop mean? And why do you have the name Bishop? Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so my nickname is Bishop, comes from a longer nickname called Bishop of Hip Hop. And so, a lot of people know me as someone who used to work for an organization I founded called the Hip Hop Chess Federation. And we fuse music, chess, and martial arts to teach, strategy and nonviolence, right? So that organization died a year or so back, and I'm getting ready to launch a new org. I've been teaching and curating hip hop exhibits at the Oakland Museum in California. It was called Respect, Hip Hop, Style, and Wisdom. I did that with Mike Realm, my Chinese partner. You know what I'm saying? And he's also the producer of my podcast, Bishop Chronicles. So I teach chess. I teach life strategies. I teach about how people can think and make better decisions in their life, and specifically that when they think they're out of options, that there's always, more often than not, another option. And so that's where Bishop comes from. Yep.
Bishop, I want to thank you for joining us. You want to tell us about your podcast, and so people can find it, because this is a podcast, and so I can't type it out because no one will see it later.
Yeah, no problem. You can just go to @Bishop Chronicles on Instagram, or you can go to bishopchronicles.com and you can see interviews with a lot of hip hop people. But we talk about real issues. We talk about life trends. We talk about hip hop, health, and fitness. So we're talking about mental and spiritual fitness, not religious, but like, how can you be more upbeat? How can you be healthier? You know what I'm saying? And things like that. And I've got RZA from Wu-Tang on there. I got Stickman from Dead Prez. I have a lot of really good people on my show. John Leguizamo we just had on. And it's a fun conversation, and it's an intercultural conversation. And, we've got to do better in the Black community. And before I go, I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to catch hell for it.
Sound like me.
I'm going to do this anyway. Black leadership from the Christian, Jewish, Muslim community, whatever we can do to be better allies to the Chinese elderly and to the Chinese community, we got to do it. If you're a community activist, a Black community activist, however we can link up, please let me know, because I want to help. I want to have a hand in it, and I want you to have a hand in it so that we have a hand in the healing, okay? And I will work with anybody I can to help bridge these gaps, be they Black, white, whatever, gender identity. I don't care. We need to heal this, and we need to help our Chinese extended family heal from this, and the elderly never fear our children again.
And if E40 and the counselors, he calls himself, and Too Short and all the other Bay Area rappers.
Anybody, we've got to fix this.
Step up. We need to stop this, and we need to stop it now.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you. I know it's time for you to go to bed pretty soon.
Yeah.
Hey,
So yeah, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your platform and your time with me. I appreciate you. Once again, my condolences to your sister. I know it's not easy trying to navigate everything that you've been navigating, but I salute you. In your efforts to help heal what we all know is something that should never exist, and so I appreciate you for that as well.
So are you a UK resident?
Nah, I'm just out here working on a new book, man. So I'm finishing up a book that I've been working on. It's called A Dead Man's Diary, and it's about a near-death experience that I had, and what happens to your life when everything you defined yourself by no longer exists. Like, who are you then? And so it's a very interesting look at my life in hip-hop, my life as a writer, and a family man. And so I hope to have it. I've completed the book. I'm finishing the book proposal. I got a guy who's going to probably be my agent, and so I'm looking forward to sharing that with people.
Well, I'm looking forward, and when the book comes out, maybe we can have you back on again.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love it. I appreciate it.
Hey, tell the Queen I said hello while you're out there.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know if they'll let me in.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's a little problem going on right now.
I'm going to get kicked out just because of this moment. They're going to be like, oh, he think you funny out there.
Well, look, hey, at least they'll kick you out nicely. They're like,
maybe.
Oh, excuse me, but you have to leave now.
It'll sound nice, but I'm still getting out.
I'm still kicked out. All right, brother. Thank you very much.
Take care. Peace.
All right, man. So thank everybody for joining us. I mean, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, if you're wherever you are, we thank you for watching this today. And I know some of you will be hearing this. And if you're hearing this on the podcast platforms, it's because we do this live. We try to do it every Wednesday. This time was pushed back because he's in London and he had a different schedule. So remember, we're here. And also, if you're on YouTube right now, there is on the bottom, there is a little button that says little $. If you want to help contribute to keep these podcasts going, you can do that on there. If you're on the podcast on anchor.fm, there's also a little link where you can make a donation for 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. And then that way we can keep these podcasts going. And then I don't have to get a real job. I can actually keep doing this. I'm just kidding. I got to get a real job. But thank you for joining us. I do appreciate it. And remember, we do Reasons Why Aliens Will Not Invade Earth on Wednesdays. And we also do Millennial Boom, which is on Sundays. So reach out to us, and we hope to see you again.